Lid later heads to the city's wall to see for himself, and unsurprisingly the servants of Baifeng were there. Yamamoto introduces himself as the captain from Yunhai City, and he came bearing gifts from Baifeng. Lid was intrigued for what the treasure could be, so he lets the envoy into his city. Yamamoto then offers Lid the key to the chest. Lid thought the chest must be full of gold, however when he opened it, Bai Huang came springing out to surprise him. Yet she was annoyed that Lid was acting scared and not welcoming. Lid then tries tricking Bai Huang into getting back into the chest, and as she was completely fooled by him, Lid immediately clammed down on it, before asking Yamamoto to take back his gift because his city currently doesn't have the funds to support such a delicate item. Yamamoto however assures Lid that he'll take care of the expenses of Bai Huang and that there's a few precious jewelry in the box that could be sold for tens of thousands of gold. Lid was surprised, so he immediately opens up the chest, before throwing Bai Huang out, and eagerly looks for his treasures. However the chest was completely empty, and it's shown that Bai Huang was wearing all of them. Lid then chases her down to retrieve the items, before Hayu told the both of them to stop playing around, and revealed to Lid that they'll be setting up a police force to regulate the city, and Hayu selects Bai Huang to be the leader of the police force. Hayu then asked Lid if he had any problems with this idea, and Lid uncomfortably replied no. Alaya and Felita then took Bai Huang to tour the city. Later in the next morning, Lid was still in deep slumber when Alaya suddenly informs him that the Zhao army was back. Lid and his generals then viewed the situation from above the city's wall. The pair of siblings had came back to conquer Yushi City, and leader arrogantly declares that today will be the downfall of Yushi City. However, Yamamoto suddenly swung his sword, causing a huge collision to hit the barrier of the siblings, and cracking it to a certain degree. Bai Huang then introduces herself as the young daughter of the Yunhai City Lord and states she was here to play with Lid. Yet Lear didn't believe she was actually Bai Huang and even called her was ugly. Bai Huang was furious at the young boy's insult and ordered Yamamoto to quickly kill him. Yamamoto then swung his sword for the second time, and Miss 13 would use her barrier to counter this attack. Ultimately the attack couldn't break through the barrier, which allowed the Zhao siblings to come out unscathed. Both Bai Huang and Yamamoto were impressed with the sturdy defense of Miss 13. However, Miss 13 was now panting for breath, so Bai Huang ordered Yamamoto to strike her again. At this time Miss 13 shouts at Bai Huang to stop, and warns her to back down if she doesn't want Zhao City to declare war on Yunhai City. Bai Huang then told her personal guard to stop, but she argues that Yamamoto was only protecting her, and it was Li Er's fault for insulting and instigating her. Miss 13 yelled at her younger brother to quickly apologize, and the young boy would sheepishly mutter sorry. But Lid couldn't hear a sincere apology, so he and Bai Huang mockingly pressured Li Er to be louder with his apology. Li Er felt absolutely humiliated, but he gave a much serious and louder apology this time. Meanwhile, the succubuses that was hiding within the shadows took this time to make a connection with Li Er, and afterwards told their lord they have done it. At the same time, Miss 13 hopes this shows her sincerity towards Bai Huang. Bai Huang decided to not make this into a bigger issue, but she reveals that she'll be staying in Yushi City for quite a while, and if they invade the city around this time, she'll show them no mercy. Miss 13 couldn't help but heave a heavy sigh, before calling for her army to retreat. Later at Lid's mansion, Lid was packing up some essential materials, so he could take Alaya to train and level up. They later made their way into the western region of the Demon Forest, and since they'll need some bait to hunt monsters, Lid shows Alaya the eye of the Abo snake. He then tosses it behind him and wait. Suddenly the transparent slime from the demon farm had sneakily followed them from behind, and was absorbing the Abo snake eye. Lid then creeps from behind it with a sack, and traps the transparent slime. Lid explains that since the monsters are hostile towards the slime and the Abo snake eye could attract low-level monsters, the transparent slime was the perfect bait to allow Alaya to farm. Alaya then killed all the nearby monsters that was attracted to the slime. The slime was cutely pissed at Lid for using it as bait, but Lid starts to comfort it and build a connection with it. They then continued with Alaya's grind while also extracting rare materials from the monsters. Later, while Lid was combing Alaya's hair, Alaya informs her lord that she seems to be getting stronger. The transparent slime later came back to Lid with a horn, and we learn that it has also ranked up. Lid thanks his little buddy for the rare material, and pats him on the head to thank you. Suddenly a bear's paw was shown, and Lid with his slime bro was scared. The bear was attracted to the scent of slime bro, and it quickly found him. The crimson red bear was an elite monster that swiftly charges at them. However, Alaya would come over to protect her master, and try to cut the bear who dodged her attack. It then smacks Alaya to the side, and as Alaya was recovering from the attack, the bear continues its assault, and would do its best to rip Alaya to shreds. Alaya unfortunately trips on a root of a tree while dodging the bear's attack. Realizing this was its opportunity to tear Alaya to pieces, the bear begins gnawing at Alaya's sword that she puts up to protect herself. Alaya, on the other hand, felt like her bones were breaking. The bear then noticed the scent of slime bro again, and it turns its attention to attack Lid. Yet Lid would stand still because he thought this could be an opportunity for Alaya to grow stronger. Sure enough, Alaya came to Lid's aid and stabs the bear in the back. The bear tries to retaliate, but with a slash from her sword, Alaya manages to take the bear down. Alaya then asked if her master was alright, but as Lid felt a bald spot from the back of his head, Lid was pissed and ordered Alaya to quickly avenge his lost hair. Alaya immediately chased the bear down, before severing the paw of the bear, and to finishing it off with a thrust to the bear's chest, which pierces through its body and created a fierce whirlwind from behind. Alaya then returned to her master as the bear was now dead. Meanwhile, Lid hurriedly came to check on her and quickly catches her as she was completely exhausted from today's farming session. Later into the night, while roasting barbecue near the fire, Alaya soon wakes up and is greeted by her master. Alaya felt bad and wanted to apologize for putting Lid's life at risk, but Lid told her to not worry about it and just enjoy the mouth-watering bear meat he made for her. He then pats her on the head and instead apologizes for pushing her too hard. Yet Alaya shyly promised her master that she'll grow stronger so nobody can harm him. Suddenly Slime Bro came flying through the sky and hits Lid right on the head. Lid was pissed at Slime Bro's action. However, Slime Bro shows Lid that it has learned a new ability, and Lid was happy his little buddy was also getting stronger. Suddenly the group heard a cry for help from somewhere within the forest, so Alaya and Lid decided to split up and see what it was. Meanwhile, at a different area of the forest, a wolf demon had cornered an innocent young girl back to a tree, and as the demon was about to attack the young girl, a sword was precisely thrown at the demon's body to kill it. Alaya then took out her sword from the corpses of the demon and questioned who the young girl was. However, the young girl was afraid of Alaya's scary appearance and backed away several meters. Lid then shows himself to de-escalate the situation. Fan Shirhan later thanks them and reveals that she was the personal maid of Miss 13. Lid lies and introduces himself as Jack, while Alaya was his wife called Jill. Shirhan was fooled and thought they were just a young couple from Yushi City. She also wanted to invite them back to Zhao City to express her gratitude, but Lid reminded her that it was impossible since their two cities were at war with each other. Shirhan gave a sad look and said she understands. However, to compensate her benefactors for rescuing her, she reveals that the Yunyang Lord will soon cut ties with his son Lid, and without the backing of Yunyang City, Yushi City could be in real trouble. Later the next day, the envoy from Yunyang City had arrived, with many people conversing about what was going on. Punwan was the old butler of Lord Yunyang that came to convey the message sent by his master. Lid would welcome his butler to his city, yet the former butler would look down upon his previous young master. Since Yushi City was doomed to fall anyway, there was no need to show respect on his side. He later announces to the whole crowd of Yushi City that from today onwards, the Yunyang Lord will officially cut off all connections with his son Lid. Lid then wakes up from the boring news that was made known, and Punwan requested him to come up on stage to relay any message he wants to his father. Lid later declares if his father wants to disown him, then he'll have no choice but to disown his father. Punwan was shocked that Lid even have the balls to say something so outrageous, but he had already decided that from this day onward he shall be Lid of Yushi City. Punwan tried to compose himself, before telling Lid that his father wants him to send Alaya back to Yunyang City. In return he'll receive 5 more cities, because a fool like Lid doesn't deserve a beautiful strong knight like Alaya. Yet Lid expressed that this was the one thing he'll never give up on. So when Punwan tried asking Alaya to come back to Yunyang City, she immediately rejects him. Punwan also tried recruiting Felita to join him, yet she just ignores him. Punwan was annoyed by how loyal Lid's followers were, so he could only head back pissed. A few days later at Star City of the Zhao territory, many people of Yushi City have defected to Star City after learning about the news from Punwan. Meanwhile, at the center of the stage of Star City, Miss 13 warmly welcomes all the people that have decided to switch sides. Lid, who was disguised as Jack, was one of them. We then learn that Fan Yuan's relationship with his little brother is very poor, since Fan Yuan will want to take in the refugees after news about Lid's abandonment. Miss 13 will also try to take in as many refugees from Yushi City. This is where Lid will infiltrate Star City with his alias Jack. And when the time is right, they will cooperate with Fan Yuan's army to crush the army of Li Er. Alaya then wants to accompany Lid as his wife Jill, yet Lid expressed they will be exposed more easily if they go together. Back in the present, Shirhan was excited to see her benefactor again, and was overjoyed when Lid confirms he was going to live in Star City from now on. She then decided to take him to Miss 13, and introduces him to her. Lid formally greets Miss 13, and the latter would do the same. While conversing with each other, Lid reveals that his wife Jill was in the first batch of refugees, but Shirhan exclaims that the first batch is heading towards Fanyuan City instead. Miss 13 told her to be silent and assures Lid that she'll find a way to bring them back together again. A quick while later, Lear came running to hug his sister. Miss 13 afterwards introduces Lid to her brother, and Lear would give him a mean look for being so close to his sister. However, Lid would continue to work hard under his new alias Jack, and he would help Miss 13 with her paperwork while also having dinner with her every night. One night while he was doing his usual routine, Lid notices something, and he spots Miss 13 outside of her room. Lid inquires if she was cold, yet the sleeping beauty did not respond. So Lid took out a blanket from his basket and wraps it around the young lady. He later sneaks into her room and tries to search for any information regarding Miss 13's next plan to invade Yushi City. Lid soon discovers what he was looking for, and he straps a message around a bird's leg so he could inform his friends about what will happen. A few nights later, Lid was summoned by Miss 13 to her room, yet Lid noticed the young lady was completely drunk after nearly finishing a bottle of wine. Miss 13 then invites Lid to have a drink with her while they chat. After clanking their glass, Lid felt awkward that Miss 13 kept staring at him. But Miss 13 finally revealed her suspicion that Lid could possibly be a spy from Yushi City. Lid was starting to get nervous, however Miss 13 pinches his cheek while stating she was only joking. She then lays peacefully on top of his chest and apologized for not being able to bring his wife here, yet if Lid promised her one thing, she wouldn't mind being his wife instead. The promise was to not betray Star City and her young brother. So as both of their lips draws near, Li-Er suddenly interrupts them and tells his sister that they need to talk. While Miss 13 was panicking a bit, Li-Er expressed that she has grown somewhat distant from her since Lid arrived. Miss 13 would try to deny his claims, but the young boy reveals that there are people trying to incite him to betray her. However, he won't do that since he loves his sister, so Li-Er wishes her to read him a story again when this war was all over. At this moment, Lid pushes his glass off the table on purpose, so he could arouse the suspicion of Li-Er. When Li-Er entered the room seeing her sister on another man, he was stunned to his core and shouts for the guards to come immediately. Lid was later taken away by the guards and locked in a cell of Star City. While Lid was in the cell with another man, the depressed man asked Lid if he likes man or woman, to which Lid strongly replied woman, but because the man was so deprived of a woman's contact, he didn't mind banging a dude. Lid immediately backed away several meters in fear. Two of the guards then told him to come out, and he was tied up with chains, so Li-Er could torture him. He first asked Lid his intention for getting close to his sister, but angrily lashes at him when Lid didn't answer. A guard later came to inform Li-Er that Miss 13 and her maid asked to see him. Although Li-Er didn't want to go at first, he quickly felt bad and went to see his sister. As everybody soon left the room, Lid felt that Li-Er did a bad job at inflicting injuries onto him, so he quickly got out of his chains and found a sharp dagger to help poke a few holes inside of him. Meanwhile, Li-Er was conversing with his sister while walking to the torture room. He apologized for acting too rashly but assured her that he didn't hurt Lid too badly. But as the door was open, Shirhan screamed in horror, causing Miss 13 to immediately become wary. Shirhan told her miss that Lid was covered with blood and holes. She expressed that if they don't take him to see a doctor, Lid will die. Li-Er tried explaining he only whipped Lid a few times to inflict minor injuries, but Miss 13 couldn't hide her anger, and she slaps her brother right in the face, because she is greatly disappointed by him. She then ordered someone to bring Lid to a hospital, but Li-Er didn't take her slap too kindly, and grabs his sister's mouth, remarking she would side with an outsider rather than her own family, so this would be the last time she will ever slap him. He then told her to know her place, before ordering his guard to spread the news that his sister will be relieved from her duty and he will assume all military command in her place. 3 days later, within a quiet room, Miss 13 was doing her best to treat Lid. After she was finished with the treatment, she asked him if Li-Er was really the person who hurt him, because Miss 13 was starting to think Li-Er might be innocent after his constant denial. Yet Lid continued playing the victim, and said that her brother was the last person he saw before fainting. Suddenly they heard a weeping noise coming from outside the room. Li-Er came crying and apologizing to his sister. While Miss 13 was comforting him, Li-Er revealed that he has lost 5 cities to Fan Yuan's army, and he begs his sister to help avenge him. Miss 13 couldn't bear seeing her little brother cry, so she promised him that she'll find a way to defeat Fan Yuan's army. Miss 13 later began formulating a plan, all while her little brother was fooling around and sleeping without a care in the world. Miss 13 began to work hard day and night without resting. Her body became weaker and weaker before she begins coughing up blood from overworking. Lid later makes her a delicious-looking dinner, and they were having a good time conversing with each other. He also told her to take care of herself, before feeding her some food. At the same time, Lear came crashing in, and begs his sister to quickly finish up her plan so he could humiliate Fang Yuan. Miss 13 assured her brother that her plan is almost complete while Lear acted cute to gain her sympathy. He afterwards said his goodbyes after learning what he needed to. However, when the little runt left, Miss 13 began coughing again. Lid immediately went to check on her and realized her condition was extremely bad, so he convinces the frail beauty to rest before putting her to bed. Seeing that Miss 13 was fast asleep from exhaustion, Lid took this time to snoop at her plan. He quickly found the plan he was looking for, and although he felt pity for Miss 13, he still took the plan so he can inform his ally of their enemy's next move. The very next day, multiple cannons were fired. Leader didn't know why his residence was trembling, so he went to ask his sister. Miss 13 apologized because they won't be getting any of their cities back anytime soon. When Leader was about to cuss at his sister, the people of Star City began hearing a voice from above the sky. We learned that Fang Yuan's army had used a speaker spell to talk to their enemies from a distance. The people who was broadcasting this spell was poking fun and ridiculing Lear, causing many people from the opposing sides to laugh. Lear was beyond pissed, so he went to his city's wall to tell them to shut up. Yet the announcer would continue to mock him, so Lear shouts at his soldier to kill them. The army began raising their arrows, but none of the arrows did anything to the announcers. So Miss 13 ordered her man to stop because it was a waste of arrows, but Lear had dark expression when the soldiers were following his sister's command instead of his. Later that night inside of Sibling's mansion, Lear began attacking his sister, because he didn't need a useless waste that can't even defeat Fang Yuan. Miss 13 begs her little brother to stop, and the boy lets her go out of disdain. He then ordered his guard to drag her out, and announced that she was banished from entering the Lord's mansion ever again. As Miss 13 was thrown away like garbage, rain began to pour down, and the sad beauty started recounting the happy days she had spent with Lear. The young girl was neglected by her parents, only Lear would come to play with her. They would read books together, and Lear had an ambitious dream in becoming a king one day. Miss 13 wanted to support her brother, so they made a pinky promise to do this together. Those were the days Miss 13 was the happiest. However, as they grew older, many people began inciting Lear to betray his sister. Lid then came to comfort the sad beauty, and finally revealed his true identity. Realizing the Lord of Yushi City was next to her this whole time, Miss 13 at this moment felt empty and defeated. However, Lid couldn't bear seeing Miss 13 in this miserable state, so he takes her to Shirhan's residence. After leaving Miss 13 in Shan's care, Lid sets out to fulfill his duty. Lid later took out a few guards stationed on the city's wall, and announced that the city was now his, while he threatened to kill Leader if they don't submit to him. The very next morning of Star City, Fang Yuan's had come with his troops to occupy Star City and quell any rebellion. At this time Miss 13 had just woken up, and Lid informs her that Star City belongs to him, while the other 7 fief goes to Fang Yuan. Miss 13 grips her blank sheet in frustration, and congratulates Lid in becoming the new lord with bitterness. Lid then tried recruiting her to join his city, however Miss 13 angrily refused this offer because she still had her dignity as a woman from the Zhao family. Realizing it was going to be hard to convince her using a normal method, Lid asked Alaya to bring Leader into the room. Miss 13 was shocked when she learned that Lid had her little brother within his grasp. Leader was brought in and begs his sister to save him, but Miss 13 was still reluctant to work for her enemies. Lid then ordered Alaya to torture Lear. Only after hearing the scream from her little brother and him blaming her for putting them in this mess, did Miss 13 tearfully agree to join Lid. However, he must adhere to her request. Lid must promise to return 3 cities back to Lear if he wants her to join him. Lid was decisive with his decision and immediately accepted the deal. This causes Miss 13 to be surprised, as she didn't think Lid would accept the request so easily. However, Lid expressed she was more valuable than 3 cities. After leaving the room, it turns out Leader was only pretending to be hurt under Lid's command, and Lid decided to return his city as part of the deal, but he also had something special in store for the little boy. Later, while Lear was enjoying his food and fooling around with some women, the door was slammed open, and Fang Yuan greets his little brother. Leader told him to stay back, because he was under Lid's protection. However, Fang Yuan didn't care, and he was more mad that Leader mistreated their sister. So he orders his retainer to break the boy's leg and gouge out one of his eyes. Maggie then delivers a chop to Leader's neck, and he immediately fell unconscious. She then picks him up, and took him to a quiet place where they can torture him. Later, while Lid was playing with Felita, Hayu was annoyed that Lid gave up so many of their resources away. Lid tried to calm him down, but Hayu wasn't mad at him but instead Miss 13. Miss 13 and Hayu then got into a small dispute with each other, before they all went their separate way. Currently only Bai Huang was the only heroine remaining, yet she was upset with Lid for some reason. Yamamoto explains that they went to snoop on him last night, and Bai Huang was jealous when she fantasized Lid having a romantic time with Miss 13. So Lid later took her out shopping, and gave her a charm as a token of his apology. Bai Huang accepted Lid's apology, before hanging the charm on her waist. Alaya then came running to inform Lid about Li-Er's situation, and told him that the boy has lost an eye, while his leg was broken. After entering the room of the succubus was rapidly draining the life force of Li-Er. Lid then inquires if they were enjoying their meal. Mao expressed that they were. However, he would prefer it even more if he can sleep with Lid. Lid then hits Mao's little brother in the face, and told them to continue sucking Li-Er's life away because he has no use for him anymore. Lid later visited Slime Bro in another room, and we learned that Slime Bro was able to rap like Killer Bee, and he was even dissing Tensei Shitara Slime, because he was the one and only true Slime King. Lid then began slapping Slime Bro to tame his ego, but Slime Bro told Lid to stop because he was remembering something. Long ago there was a great war between gods and demons. To turn the tide in their favor, the angels use a giant slime known as God's weapon to defeat the demons, but the God's weapon was later banished after its use. Lid had no recollection about such events happening on this planet, and wondered if Slime Bro was a reincarnator. If the events that Slime Bro just summarized was true, then Slime Bro might be more trouble than he's worth. A few days later in the snowy plains of the east, Miss 13 was negotiating with a diplomat of other cities, and she had secured many cities for Lid already. After showing the diplomat out of the tent, Miss 13 was putting together another plan to acquire more city. Suddenly an assassin appeared behind Miss 13, and the assassin wanted to kill her, but Alaya came in time to stop that from happening. The assassin managed to overwhelm Alaya with her craftiness, before taking the opportunity to flee. Alaya wanted to pursue her, however Miss 13 told her to not give chase, and to head back to inform Lid. Alaya and Felita quickly rushed back to Yushi City, and told their master about the assassin in the snowy plain. Hayu asked if there was any notable features about the assassin, to which Alaya revealed that the assassin was a very short person, and she felt like a dead person. Hayu theorized she must be from the Umbu. Basically each territory will train a shadow specializing in assassination. Baifeng has his own hidden organization that specializes in gathering intelligence. Meanwhile other lords will have assassins in different fields. Lid thought the idea of owning a secret organization was cool, and so he proposed they create one. Yet Hayu rejected this idea because they were still tight on money. Later while discussing and playing outside, a letter suddenly flew onto Lid's head. They tried reading the contents of the letter, however the writings were so bad that they couldn't understand at all. So Lid gathered everyone for a meeting to discuss the assassin's next plan. Hayu suggests the assassin might be aiming for their granary, since their food supply is vital for them to keep growing their territory. So she told everyone to keep a watch at tonight's granary to catch the assassin. Later that night while patrolling the streets near his granary, Lid came across Baifeng who thought she was being sneaky. He then came behind her to scare her, and amusingly express her tactic was a bit shallow. However Baifeng snaps her finger, and revealed that Yamamoto was hiding in a barrel behind them, and she was planning to bait the assassin so her retainer could subdue the assassin. She also had another trap she wanted to show Lid, so she took the young lord of Yushi City with her. She states that this guard may look normal, but there are strings attached to his hand when he opens them, and these strings are connected to all the soldiers protecting the granary. So when one person fails their duty, the others will be alerted of the assassin. But that wasn't all she prepared, and she began showing Lid more traps she had installed. Later as the night continued to progress without any trace of the assassin, Lid and his girls decided to play cards to pass the time. Lid's instinct then noticed someone was coming, so he told his girls that he'll be gone for a bit. Lid then sneaks to a different location and saw a guard had fainted. He realized the trap of Bai Huang wasn't useful, as the assassin had used a wooden cross to counter it. Lid then heard the guards screaming that someone has fallen into a trap, however the person that fell into the trap was his own men. While the guard was busy helping their friends out of the rubble, Lid noticed a suspicious guard walking away. This guard was obviously the assassin, and she had successfully infiltrated the granary. When the assassin was about to burn everything to ashes, Bai Huang and the others came in time to stop her. But when the door was accidentally closed, the room was enveloped by darkness, allowing the assassin to make quick work of her enemies. She then went back to burn the wheat and rice, but when she left the granary, she noticed her mask was gone. The door suddenly starts to creak open, and Lid showed himself holding the mask of the assassin. Immediately the assassin tried killing Lid. Lid was able to stop the dagger, but the assassin had already vanished by the time he did. Guards then came rushing when they saw people fainting on the ground. Lid also pretended to be unconscious to hide his strength. However, when the guards wasn't able to wake their lord up, they tried to perform CPR on him. Lid felt like crapping himself when the two lips were about to touch each other. Luckily, Elijah quickly regained conscious and pushed the guard away. Lid then pretended to wake up, and Elijah was relieved her master was alright. Later the next morning, while training Elijah, a rock attached with a letter came flying out of nowhere and hits Lid on the head. The letter states that the assassin will be coming for Lid's head tonight. To protect Lid from tonight's assassination attempts, the girls decided all gather in his room and sleep with him. A bit later into the night, Felita began wrapping herself around Lid, while Bifong would land a kick on his face, and Hayu was sneaking up on his little brother. Ultimately, everything was just a mess. Suddenly a rope was dropped into the room, and the assassin was now in front of Lid. The assassin tried to stab Lid's young brother, but he managed to kick the dagger away in time. The assassin afterwards tried jumping away from Lid's kick, but she slips on his blanket and landed on his body. This causes Elijah to wake up and check on her master. She questions why her master looks more obese than usual, and Lid just gave a random answer. Suddenly the assassin starts biting Lid's hand. This startled Lid and attracted the attention of Elijah, but Lid manages to convince Elijah to go back to sleep before the assassin uses her rope to escape. The very next morning, while going for his morning jogging, Lid finds the assassin sleeping under a bridge. Since the assassin felt hungry, she wakes up to the scent of food and sees Lid waving a dumpling at her. Although the assassin was reluctant at first, she quickly gave in to her hunger before introducing herself as Hilo. Hilo then wrote something in her book before ripping the paper out and slamming it into Lid's face. Hilo states she will keep trying to assassinate Lid from tomorrow onwards, and Lid welcomes her to do so anytime. So for the next few days, Hilo would try various ways to assassinate Lid. On one day in particular, while Lid was buying a burrito to eat, Hilo tried to attack Lid from behind, but Lid manages to subdue her with a burrito. Hilo then smacks his hand away before running off with the burrito. It was at that moment Lid realized he can tame Hilo with food. And that's the end of part 4. If you guys enjoy the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below if you want part 5. With that out of the way, I'll see you guys later.